It's another beautiful evening and you're watching Rtm Business Report. My name is Emmy Akura Adaa. Without wasting much of your time, let's take a look at the stories making headline in our business report for tonight, starting with the first story, and it's coming in the South African section. Sandra in breach of state deal on BEE. WHO has issued a scathing response to the South African National Road Agency, Sandra, announcement that it will do business only with companies that are at least 51% black owned and have a minimum BEE level 2 rating. Sandra was flouting government policy in its draft transformation strategy announced on Friday. WHO said the group is among 7 JSE listed construction and engineering entities party to the voluntary rebuilding program, also known as the settlement agreement, signed with the government to speed up transformation in the industry. In some cases, these companies have quit the local construction market or have sold 51% in the South African construction operation to black empowered entities. Others will mentor up the 3 black-owned construction group over 7 years, or will sell at least 40% of equity in their South African construction operation to such groups, they said. In our next story in the South African Business Report for tonight, key state-owned fine mining transferred to Zwane's control. The Department of Mineral Resources appears to have gone over the head of Energy Minister Mamoloko Kubayi and her office, telling the African Exploration, Mining and Finance Corporation it to be placed under the control of Mineral Resources Minister Mosebenzi Zwane. The AEMFC, a state-owned mining firm, falls under the Central Energy Fund, of which Kubayi is shareholder minister. Mineral Resources Director General Thabo Mokweni sent a letter to AEMFC CEO Suzwane Madondo in August, informing him the company would be hired out to his department following a cabinet decision taken in December 2010. I wish to advise you that AEMFC now falls under this executive leadership of Zwane, and I'm looking forward to a healthy working relationship with you, he wrote. And in our last story in the South African Business Report for tonight, it says Exxaro to sell slice of its Tronox stake. Exxaro Resources is to sell up to 14.4 million shares, or a third of the stock it holds in New York listed tantalum product company. Tronox worth about $397 million or 5.4 billion rand. The funds will be used for capital project, debt repayment, and to return capital to the shareholders. It says on Tuesday, Exxaro shares surged as much as 5.8% to 132.9 rand on the news before correcting slightly to trade about 5% higher. They have gained about 52% since the end of June. Exxaro's executive head of stakeholders accountability, Mzila Nthenzana, said the specific return of cash had not yet been determined, but it will be through either a share buyback or a special dividend, he stated. And that's all the story we have for you in the South African Business Report. After the short break, I will take you straight into the rest of African Business Report for tonight. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching Rtm Business Report. Let's take a look at the stories making headline in our business report in the rest of Africa. And starting with the first story, Ghana's GDP growth jumped to 9% in second quarter of 2017. Ghana's GDP growth increased to 9% during the second quarter of 2017 in an encouraging sign that the economy is recovering from the 2014 downturn, which necessitated the government to request a $918 million IMF loan. The West African nation's latest quarterly GDP growth was up from the 6.6% recorded in the previous 3-month period, and a significant rise on the 1.1% in the same quarter during 2016. GDP growth was primarily driven by Ghana's industrial sector along with the resources industry, including oil and gas mining, which also contributed to the country's economic progress. The contribution of the mining and quarrying subsector far outstretches the other sectors, said acting government statistician Bao Wadi. Oil and gas alone grew by over 188%, and it is because of some of the floating production storage on the offloading vessel. Increased production, and we are also had oil from Sakofa and TIN, he stated. And in our next story in the African Business Report for tonight, Stratcom African CEO wins Female Business Leadership Award. Strategic Communications Africa CEO Esther Kubar has been awarded the Female Business Leadership Award at the 2017 International Summit on African Leadership. The annual event held in New York focused on gender equality and sustainability this year and recognized Kubar's work in facilitating the growth of Stratcom into an international firm. Stratcom is a communication company which specializes in creating innovative communication strategies for individuals and organizations on a nation and international scale. Speaking after the award, Kuban said, "This award goes to Stratcom African staff as there cannot be a leader without a team. I hope it inspires us to aim for new heights in our quest to be the go-to communication companies on the African continent," she says. And in our last story in the African Business Report for tonight, and it's coming from Tanzania, a positive one indeed. Petra Diamond resolves strike dispute and resume export from Tanzanian mine. UK-based miner Petra Diamond has reached an agreement with South African National Union of Mine Workers, which will see employees return to 2 mines after recent strike action. The 3-wage agreement includes an annual rise to non-members of around 9 to 10% in the first year and 8.5% for the remaining 2 years. In addition, shares in Petra jumped early 13% in London. It was announced that the Tanzanian government will allow the firm to resume exporting diamond from its Williamson mine. And that's all the stories we have for you in our African Business Report for tonight. After the short break, I'll be giving you our latest in the Nigerian Business Report for tonight. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching Rtm Business Report. Let's take a look at the positive stories coming in the Nigerian Business Report for tonight. Starting with the first story, CBN boosts Forex market with $195 million. The Central Bank of Nigeria has strengthened the foreign exchange market with $195 million in continuation of efforts to boost liquidity in the country. According to a statement yesterday in Abuja by the Acting Director of Corporate Communication Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Emmy Akura, for $100 million went to the wholesale segment, while the small and medium enterprises subsector got $50 million. The invisible segment, comprising tuition fees, medical payments, and basic travel allowances, among others, received $45 million. The spokesperson said the Apex Bank was pleased with the state of the market and is pledged to continue intervention to sustain its liquidity and guarantee the international value of the naira, as well as enhance accessibility and affordability for genuine and end users. And our next story in the Nigerian Business Report for tonight, World Bank project $22 billion diaspora remittance to Nigeria in 2017. The World Bank has projected that up to $22 billion will flow into Nigeria in 2017 through diaspora remittance, noting that global remittance flow is set to recover this year after the consecutive years of decline. This was contained in the latest edition of the World Bank Migration and Development Brief released yesterday. According to the statement, remittance to low and middle income countries are on course to recover in 2017 after 2 consecutive years of decline. Diaspora remittance is the money sent by person in a foreign land to his or her own country. Due to the huge sums involved in recent years, such remittances are now being recognized as important contributor to the home country growth and development. In our last story in the Nigerian Business Report for tonight, companies raised $1.89 trillion from equity market in 7 years. Companies have raised a total of 1.896 trillion naira from the nation's equity market from 2010 to 2016, according to data compiled by the Security and Exchange Commission, the apex regulator of the market. The equities market has the potential of providing adequate fresh capital for companies at relatively cheaper rate. However, its patronage has been low due to weak demand by investors who are still traumatized by the experience of the 2008-2009 crash. In the absence of high demand by investors, most companies have been relying more on the bond market, even though at higher cost. But data obtained show that the equities market still provided significant capital to companies to the tune of 1.896 trillion naira between 2010 and 2016. And that's all the stories we have for you in our Nigerian Business Report for tonight. After the short break, I'll be giving the latest in our International Business Report. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching Rtm Business Report. Let's take a look at the stories making headline in our international business report for tonight. Starting with the first story, China's high-speed train maker to get $30 billion for export push. The China Railway Construction Company, which is making strong bid to export its high-speed train technology, will get $30 billion to sharpen its competitiveness in the overseas market, state media reported. The Export-Import Bank of China has signed an agreement with CRCC to provide 200 billion yen, about $30 billion to enable it aggressively market its technology abroad. The bank will offer CRCC a wide range of financial services, including credit support and information counseling. The state-run China has identified bullet train technology as one of its items to boost its sagging export. Through the move, the China Exim Bank hopes to help the CRCC increase its core competitiveness in the railway engineering and equipment manufacturing and encourage outbound cooperation, the report said. In our next story in the international business report for tonight, Uber clears the way for huge SoftBank investment. Uber's directors approved a huge investment from Japanese SoftBank late Tuesday and a series of changes to its board. The firm said the investment, which reports suggest may hit $1.3 billion, could be finalized in the coming weeks. The board of the ride-sharing firm also endorsed a plan to hold an initial public offering in 2019. The move signals fresh unity among the previously divided board as Uber seeks to recover from a series of scandal. The board voted to move forward with the proposed investment by SoftBank and with governance changes that will strengthen its independence and ensure equality among all shareholders. Uber said in a statement late Tuesday, the size of the investment is expected to be between €1 billion, £750 million and $1.2 billion, various reports say, citing unnamed sources. And in our last story in the international business world for tonight, Ford unveils plans to help it compete. Ford's new boss has outlined plans which he says will make the U.S. car giant fit to compete in a changing industry. The firm says it will shift resources from traditional cars to SUV and trucks while investing in electric power and tech services. The firm will also automate its manufacturing processes more to help to cut costs by $14 billion, £10.5 billion. Chief Executive Jim Hackett identified the goals after a 100-day review. He became the head of the company in May, replacing Mark Fields, who had been in the top job for over 3 years. During that time, the firm had two of the most profitable years in its history, but the share price drifted lower. Investors have been concerned that Ford was not moving quickly enough in the markets such as China and in sectors such as automated cars to fend off competitors, including new ones emerging from the Silicon Valley, he said. And that's all the stories we have for you in our business report for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. See you again tomorrow, same time, same station. Have a good night.